It's the 80s Experience on FM 88.5 KSBR with J.J. Buchanan. She is a part of an amazing band that changed rock and roll music as we know it today, selling way over 30 million records worldwide. The lovely and talented Miss Nancy Wilson from the band Heart. Nancy, how are we?
Hello. We're good.
So, Nancy, take me back to when you and Ann were growing up back there in Seattle, and what kind of musical influences did you have growing up?
Oh, well, we first sort of got the big jolt from the Beatles when we first saw the Beatles. That they forced us to buy guitars and beg for guitars, and they forced us to make bands and learn how to write songs, and it was our calling from then on. And of course, all the cool music from that point forward that we grew up with, Zeppelin and Elton John and Rolling Stones, and just you can just guess. The list is long,
right?
But we took a lot of influences from all of those amazing late '60s and early mid '70s. By the late '70s, we had our album out.
How did you and Ann come up with the name Heart?
Heart was a Seattle band called the Army at first, and then they got Ann involved as their lead singer. And then they changed the name to White Heart, which was the name of a novel, and then sort of shortened it to Heart right before I joined the band. And then, that seemed to really stick. One still stuck.
Okay, and then the band's debut album, Dreamboat Annie, was released in 1976. Did a gentleman by the name of Michael Fisher have something to do with that hit single, Magic Man?
Yes, well, he was Ann's boyfriend, and also was the brother of the main guitar player in the band, and sort of the manager and equipment builder, along with the guys in the band. So they were the founding brothers of the initial group before the sisters took over. But yeah, she wrote that about him. That he was the reason she left home and went up to Vancouver, BC, and joined the band and moved in with him. And everybody sort of followed her because you don't find lead singers like that
right
too often. So yeah, that was a pretty cool story song.
And then the next single, too, Nancy, you and Ann wrote Crazy on You, which is like one of your signature sounding songs. And that was also about Michael, correct?
Well, that was a little more of a universal style song about lovers in general, like in humanity. More of a poetic take on life and humanity, and how when, all else fails in a very troubling and complex and cynical world, sometimes all you have is each other.
Right.
So it's, I'm sure it's somewhat about Michael at the time, but when she sings it now, she's singing it to more than Michael.
Right. Now, yeah.
Yeah, nowadays, not the same.
Right, I hear you.
Their relationship was, long gone.
Right. Then, Nancy, the first single released from the band's sophomore album, Little Queen, was Barracuda. Now, I've heard some different stories that was kind of inspired by how you and Ann kind of felt about the music industry at that time. What's the real story behind that tune?
Well, there was a guy who tried to paint a really sinister picture of us in the press. There had been a sort of a misleading story and a picture in the press where it insinuated that we were lesbian lovers. Mm-hmm. Which we were not. And so there was a record guy who was like, "Hey, Annie, how's your lover Nancy?" A lechy guy. And it really infuriated Ann, so she went back after this party and wrote those lyrics, pretty much in one sitting.
Yeah, she got mad and she wrote a hit single. I like it.
Yeah. Leave it to, emotions running high sometimes to get straight to the kernel of what it's about.
During the summer of 1985, the 5-time platinum album Heart was released on the band's new label, Capitol Records, which was also home to countless hit singles. I love that album. Also love the tune, What About Love? Now, I heard that Grace Slick was one of the vocalists on that track. How did that all come together?
Yeah, for the chorus of that song, where there's a lot of people singing the words "What About Love" all in unison. our then producer, Ron Nevison, had, I thought, a brilliant idea to, get as many sort of, we were recording it in Marin County,
Mm-hmm.
and he was, just trying to pull talent from the area, and Grace Slick was from there. So we had, a bunch of really good singers come in and all go, "What about love?" And including ourselves. And it was for a sound he was looking for, and I think it worked really well.
The second single, Nancy, from that same album, from the Heart album, was the amazing track called Never, and it was the very first time that Heart earned actually 2 consecutive top 10 American hit singles from the same album, correct?
I think you're right.
What's the story behind Never?
Well, Never was was a collaboration with a writer, Holly Knight, that we'd come to know in L.A.,
Mm-hmm.
and being that she was another sort of rocker girl, we really hit it off with Holly and wrote that together. So she's sort of a keyboard whiz as well. So that was the style of that particular era. There's all kinds of layers and layers of keyboard sounds and stuff, and she really had a wonderful knack with that. She'd had some other hits, like for Tina Turner, "We Don't Need Another Hero," I think it was, and then she'd done that song "Obsession," and she'd done a few other things. But we really hit it off, and she was one of the rare writers from that stable at the time that
Mm-hmm.
we were all encouraged to go, use the songs of or collaborate with, who did have more of a rock sensibility, I thought. And we worked on a few songs with her.
One of my favorite tracks from the 1980s, from your 80s music catalog, considering this is the 80s Experience, is the incredible tune, These Dreams. And I know you sang lead vocals on that particular tune. Now, was that song dedicated to one of your dear friends?
Yeah, that song had been initially offered to Stevie Nicks by Bernie Taupin, who is Elton John's lyricist,
Mm-hmm.
and David Page, who's the music writer on that. And it was a song that was sort of a spare, like hanging around in briefcases of producers that were trying to match songs to rock bands. That's how they did it at the time. And I just got a chance to hear that, and I went, "Oh my God, I have to sing that song. Mine, and give it to me, give it to me." And so, when we were recording it, nobody thought it was a match, but I just was really adamant.
You felt that it was, so that's what counts, yeah.
And so there was a girl named Sharon Hess who was a leukemia patient who was dying of leukemia, and one of her last wishes was to come and hang out with Hart because she was a huge fan. So she came while I was singing the vocals for These Dreams, and then, by the time the album came out, she'd already passed away, but I dedicated it to her.
And the tune Nothing at All that was released right after These Dreams, that's basically a love song, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any inspiration on that track?
That was one of the outside songwriters that we liked that song and covered it. But there's something really fun about the sound of that track.
Mm-hmm.
The lyrics, like a lot of those songs in the 80s, the lyrics are sort of fit in to feel like part of the song.
Right.
Sometimes they don't make a heck of a lot of sense, but they sound really good.
Right.
To say them, and they sound good in the track. And we thought that vibe of that track and those words just had a really good walking, you could just shuffle.
Right.
You could walk down the street and sing it and whistle that tune, It's really infectious.
Speaking of outside writers, did Billy Steinberg and Tom Kelly write the next band's hit, Alone?
They did, and that's one of the all-time prettiest songs. When we play that today, we don't play it with all the production. We do very acoustic, pared down, just the three girls in the band with Debbie, our keyboard player, and one acoustic, and one voice.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually more powerful now than with all the production. We call it the touchdown song because usually the house comes down at
Oh, I'm
that
sure you could
point.
probably hear like a pin drop or something, right?
Yeah, it's just really powerful. Sometimes less is more.
Yes.
But that's a gorgeous, gorgeous, I think a really timeless love song because it really describes the human ache, you know.
Right.
When you long for someone, that's what it feels like, that song.
I love all of the singles that you guys released and the albums. What a terrific team you and Ann have become over the years. It's just so great to know that you ladies are still out on tour and still doing what you love to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this year we've got a new album coming out in October called Fanatic, and all new stuff that we wrote ourselves, and a book and a box set and some tours. So, you know, we're still, you know, really enjoying our calling, you might say.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I know the Ladies of Heart are going to be playing on February 25th. You can see Heart perform live at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. For more ticket information and information on the band, please go to heart-music.com. Miss Nancy Wilson of the band Heart, thank you so much for being a part of the 80s Experience tonight. I really appreciate it.
It's totally a pleasure.